Hope everyone enjoyed this 1 week break because Bleach is back for more character announcements. And this is Nel, which is a character that not everyone expected to be in Bleach Rebirth of Souls. She is in my prediction, unlike 2 weeks ago character. I was gonna say last week's character because this has been weekly, but the last character that was announced was Kira. He's my first L in the prediction.
I'm going to kill you.
Nel is not, and I did see a lot of non-believers, but do not count me among them. Stabby. // We'll read all the moves as usual at the end of the trailer to figure out what her gimmicks are. Oh, Pesce and Dodonchaka! Both of them made it to her moveset. I thought that, like, if this roster is massive, actually gigantic, then maybe those guys have a chance of being their own characters. That's sick. She has to have a new moveset here. Like, the character changes too much. So, like, this is basically 2 characters in 1. And I love that! I love that a lot. Woo! High intercepting power, we'll read all that. Let's go! Spiritual pressure move 1, Viento de Esperanza. Nelliel charges to the opponent, and if the thrust hits, the attack delivers into a continuous attack. Since an additional attack can be utilized by using the signature move gauge, it is advised to accumulate the gauge for an optimized attack. What are you talking about? Signature move gauge? She has an extra gauge? Why didn't they give her signature move? Wait, her signature move comes afterwards? Alright, let's read that and then watch both of these moves together to see if we can figure out what's going on. The signature move is Cadena. Holding the input increases the ability gauge. The accumulated gauge will be used when a spiritual pressure move is utilized, causing an additional attack. Got it. Okay. So Nel is gonna have an extra meter. And that extra meter is gonna fill up when you hold down the signature move button. The longer you hold it down, the more it fills up. Once you have it full and you use any of your spiritual pressure moves, you get an additional attack out of them. Basically, she is powering up and then she can unleash it whenever she does a spiritual pressure move, like the first one we just read. Let's look at it now. Viento de Esperanza. First, you have the stab, and if that thrust hits, she does //. And according to this description, if her signature move gauge is full, she can unleash another extra attack after this. That is how I'm interpreting these 2 moves, the signature move and spiritual pressure 1. Now, the way I'm reading this, the signature move gauge also affects all spiritual pressure moves. So it's not just that, but maybe also this next one, spiritual pressure move 2, Cero Sincretico. Summon Pesce Dodonchaka to fire an oversized Zero. It has a particularly long range and high damage, but it takes time to fire. And I don't think it's one of those moves that Nel can just set up and let them fire on their own. She is stuck there in that animation to fire as well. Now, I wonder if she also has an additional move in case her signature move gauge is full. Or does that only apply to the first signature move? We'll see. And I don't know if I finished my thought process while I was reacting to the trailer, but I did think that, like, if the roster is massive, Dodonchaka and Pesce could actually be their own separate characters. I think this kind of confirms that they won't. So maybe the roster won't be that massive. Again, I'm on the 30 to 40 character range. 35 is where I landed. That's what I'm basing my entire prediction on. But let's move on to her awakening. By Nelliel releasing Gamuza with a resurrection, her attack motion changes, making it easier to gain an advantage that utilizes long-range attacks from outside the opponent's attack range. She completely changes her moveset. Her weapon is different. I think what we see here is mostly basic attacks, but then she links into her spiritual pressure move 1, which is that thrust, with 2 follow-up slashes in case that first thrust connects. I mean, look at them side by side. It's thrust into //, but it cuts off on the resurrection side of things. That little kick on move preview looks absolutely sick. That's probably how she's gonna finish off her opponents, that big Zero. And we have the character summary, high intercepting power due to long-range abilities and a signature move that capitalizes on abilities. I think it's always sick when they give a character an awakening that completely transforms the character. It's like we're getting a 2-in-1. We're getting 2 completely different movesets depending on what stage of battle we are at. And there are quite a few characters in this game that do that, which is always awesome to see. I also want to mention, since I usually miss this, new stage looks absolutely sick. A Hueco Mundo stage was definitely very much expected, but they did great with this one. Especially the shots where you have the moon in the back. It's just cinema. But let's move on to what you guys think, because we're here every week, or I guess almost every week now, and we're reacting to new character announcements. I like to check in the comments and see where you guys are at regarding these reactions. And from last week's, or 2 weeks ago, God, I keep doing it. From 2 weeks ago, the Kira video, Yeah, this roster is gonna be huge. Holy shit, can't wait for this game. This is one of the reactions that I saw. Like, Kira was announced, this roster is gonna be way bigger than we expected, and it's a valid, positive reaction to what is going on and to these reveals. I am a bit more on the cautious side, and if you've been following the channel for a while, you know that, like, I'm cautiously optimistic, but when it comes to stuff like this, I like to keep my hopes low so I can be positively surprised. And I think Kira is just taking the spot of someone else that probably deserved it a little bit more. Now, with DLC being a thing nowadays, maybe they are putting Kira out because Kira DLC wouldn't sell that much, and that character that deserves that spot more is gonna make a lot more money, whoever they are. So those are kind of the two sides to this Kira reaction, and we won't know who's really right until we see the full roster out. Kira's moves look like they're meant to supplement his awakening, so he's constantly trying to keep his opponent in a slowed down, weakened state. I fully agree, but the reason why I think Kira is kind of a boring character, or at least the moveset they presented is kind of boring, is precisely because of this. The moveset is meant to support the slowed down state, but he only gets the slowed down state once he goes into awakening. So it's a boring character until he gets his awakening, because the whole moveset is meant to support that. Does that make sense? Until he gets his awakening, he has a moveset that supports nothing, because he doesn't have it. But yeah, the character does become cooler once the awakening comes out. It's still a pretty unique gimmick, all things considered. The reason why I was kind of down on his moveset is because that interesting gimmick doesn't happen until he gets his awakening. To be fair, Kira isn't the only character that does not have a Bankai, and their Shikai is their awakening. For example, we have Rukia and Rangiku, who also just use regular Hatsu until they awaken. And that's a very fair point. I do think Rukia is a little bit more of an interesting character, but maybe that's just because of what I think of her in the show. You know, how cool I think the character is in Bleach Actual is making me a little bit biased to how cool I think their movesets are. That is very possible, because at the end of the day, Kira also has some cool Hatsu stuff. He has to get over here. That looks like a cool move. Yeah, maybe Kira comes out and he's actually a cool character. Who knows? And to support that, we have another comment. I don't see how character is a disappointing character. He's literally designed to punish you for making mistakes. The guy's Shikai was designed for beheading opponents once they are inevitably on their knees. I know my main's gonna be. And this is absolutely fine. You guys can have a different opinion from mine. I can think a character is lame, and you think a character is cool. That means you're gonna main a character that's different from mine, and the online isn't all about one character. Have you seen Sparking Zero lately? To me, Kira is defined by his Shikai. That is his gimmick. To make the opponents heavier, to make it harder for the opponents to move. The fact that his gimmick does not come into play until he gets his awakening is what I thought was a little bit disappointing. That's my opinion, I stand by it, but I also am fully accepting of your guys' different opinions, and this is why I pull comments. And I don't just pull comments that I agree with, as you can see. And that's gonna do it for this week. Everyone thought Grimjaw was getting announced this week because of this break, but turns out it was Nel. So who do you think is gonna get announced next week? Leave it in the comments down below. And if you missed Kira's announcement and moveset breakdown, you can watch it right here. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!